Shalom, everyone. I'm Ariella. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Would you first type in and let me know if you can hear me and see me down in the corner? And let me put my glasses on so I can actually see if you're typing anything into me. Oh, Lanny, bless you. You are my savior, truly. Okay, everything's fine. You can hear me and see me. Then we will go ahead and proceed. Tonight we're going to, as usual, if you don't mind, if you join me in my rituals that I do in my home. And tonight for our discussion, recall last time I was with you a couple of weeks ago, we are still in our 3 weeks of mourning, and actually we're toward the middle of the last of what's referred to as the 9 days between the 1st and the 9th of Av. So we'll be discussing and just reviewing a hair of what we did a couple weeks ago, plus some extras. And if you haven't signed in yet, would you sign in? You can do that by going to the bottom of your screen where it says menu and press on that and then just log in with whatever you would like to be called by. And I do, as usual, want to warn you that there's a bit of a lag. I'm going to keep talking, but when you type something in or when I ask a question, it's going to be a little bit before it comes back to me. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm not ignoring you. And also my webcam is in a position such that it's going to look like I'm not looking at you, but I'm thinking about you. And I'll be looking off to the side. And who is that who hasn't been here for a while? Susie Marie, I'm not even sure if I know you, but welcome. Hi, Esther. Tall. So we're going to go ahead and start, if you don't mind. We are doing Kabbalat Shabbat, and as you know, that means reception of the Sabbath. It's our most important ritual observance, which is one reason I do it every Friday, and it's the only one that's instituted in the 10 Commandments. I'd like to start off tonight the way that I do in my home and that Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav commences his Shabbat. May it be God's will that I be privileged to receive this holy Shabbat with happiness and joy, with song and excitement. Protect me so that no sadness or depression, no anguish or worry will mar my Shabbat. May I be happy with all my soul, with all my heart, and with all my strength. Let this happiness without limit encompass the world, your people, Israel, me, my loved ones, and the members of my household. And again, that's Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. Greatest sense of vintage fashion. And birds. What an interesting combination. Thanks, Lanny. You know everybody, don't you? I think that that's terrific, and that's why you are my rock. I'm going to, we'll start off here as we usually do with our candles. This is a rabbinic institution, unlike being in the 10 Commandments, and it is what formally ushers in the Sabbath. We're supposed to have a minimum of 2 candles, and that's derived from the 4th of the 10 Commandments that appears, where we're supposed to remember the Sabbath day and observe the Sabbath day. And I'd like to read what I say in my home, because I am in my home. By the way, welcome to my home. I'm glad you're here with me. Thank you. These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames purify and renew, soften and refine. They brighten and make warm. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. And now, the candle blessing.
Baruch ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
Now, nobody's complained about me and my pretend yet, so I'm going to go ahead and continue doing it until I do hear any complaints. So what we're going to do is pretend that we lit our candles, we went to shul, and then we came home before we had our Shabbat dinner. Rabbi Yossi ben Yehuda in the Talmud says that when we come home from shul, we come home with two angels, one good one and one bad one. Shalom Aleichem is a song from the 17th century that's based on this information from the Talmud, and I would like to play it for you. It's one of my absolute favorites.
מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא בואכם לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ברכוני לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלאכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא צאתכם לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
So we're going to go ahead and return now to our rituals of wine, hand washing, and bread. This is the pretty wine glass that I'm pretending to use. It's quite nice, much nicer than the one that I actually use in my home. And Kiddush means sanctification or holy. If we were doing a traditional Shabbat Kiddush, it would include reading a section of the creation story from Genesis describing how God rested on the seventh day, a blessing over the wine, which we will be doing, and a blessing over Shabbat itself. And as you know, it's forbidden to eat or drink anything before Kiddush, and that starts Friday at sundown. Here's our blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen.
Another way that we sanctify Shabbat is another rabbinic ordinance from temple times of the ritual hand washing after Kiddush and before the blessing of the bread. Originally, this was decreed only for the priests before they ate their sacred food. Eventually, however, it was extended to all Jews, and this is the one ritual that many people do not perform at home, but I do. So guess what? You get stuck doing it with me. Here is the hand-washing blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Our final ritual before we get to eat is the blessing of the bread. And even though this picture doesn't show it, the bread and the knife are both supposed to be fully covered, both above and below. We're going to uncut the uncut loaves. We're going to uncover them, hold them up, and we're going to say the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lahem min haaretz. Amen.
Now, I wanted to play Hine Matov here, Hine Matov, which is the first verse from Psalm 133. And again, this is my way of expressing how happy I am that we're together tonight. And I just wanted to mention, since we are in the 3 weeks, that if today was actually Tisha B'Av itself, that you're not supposed to be greeting anybody. So if it was Tisha B'Av, if it was the 9th of Av, I would not be playing this, no matter how much I loved you. And since the bottom of the screen, some of it you may not be able to see, the words are, "How good and pleasant is it when brothers dwell together in unity."
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. לה 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 לה.
Now, Lanny, was that your challah, or are you pretending with me? Mine only had salt. I didn't have sesame seeds. That's great. You know that usually I read the first psalm that we do for the evening in Hebrew, but since I didn't put the Hebrew onto this particular slide, if you don't mind, we'll read it together and we'll do it in English. This is particularly relevant to the 3 weeks when we're talking about the destruction of the temple. And we're going to be doing another one. You bake them. Oh my gosh. I have not acquired that skill yet. I've tried and it looked really ugly. This is Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. Upon the willows in the midst thereof, we hanged up our harps. For there they that led us captive asked of us words of song, and our tormentors asked of us mirth. Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. Let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth, if I remember thee not, if I set not Jerusalem above my chiefest joy. Remember, O Lord, against the children of Edom the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, that art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that repayeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little one against the rock. Pretty horrible. We're going to get even sadder as we go on this evening. Now, let's recall that, let's go on to this. Recall that Kabbalat Shabbat means reception of the Sabbath, and we hear about the two rabbis, Hanina and Yanai, who put on their best Shabbat clothing, went out into what served as their yard. One said, let us go forth and meet the Queen of Shabbat, and the other one said, come, O bride, come, O bride. And this is one of my favorite sayings. And before we start, you don't worry about the appearance. Yeah, sometimes I keep trying to tell everybody the uglier it looks, the better it's going to taste. 3-strand braid, always lose pattern my 4-strand braid. I'm so jealous, Lanny, I cannot tell you. So, if you don't mind, I'd like us to read this together. The sun has already disappeared beyond the treetops. Come, let us go and welcome the Sabbath Queen. She is already descending among us, holy and blessed, and with her are angels, a host of peace and rest. Come, O Queen, come, O Queen. Peace be unto you, O angels of peace. Sit among us, O pure Shabbat Queen, and enlighten us with your splendor. And my favorite line, tonight and tomorrow, then you may pass on. And we, for our part, will honor you by wearing beautiful clothing, by singing Zemarot, by praying, and by eating 3 meals, and with complete rest, and with pleasant rest. Bless me with peace, O angels of peace. Now, the stories I was just telling you about Rabbis Hanina and Yanai served as a basis for this next hymn that I'll be playing, which is Lecha Dodi. And since the refrain that you see here is up in the top in Hebrew with the English underneath, this is all going to be sung in Hebrew. I wanted to put it in English for you. When you hear the refrain, which is going to appear several times, you'll recognize it when you hear it. And other than that, we're going to be doing the first and last part of Lecha Dodi. And there's a lot of different music that we can do this by. And since I'm leading, I got to pick my favorite. So if you have any others that you'd like me to consider, please send me an email and I'll tell you how to do that as we get toward the end of our presentation tonight.
לקראת קלה, בני שבת לקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת לקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת לקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת לקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת לתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת לקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, בני שבת לקבלה. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגור.
So Shema, which means hear, is a declaration of faith in one God, and it's considered to be our most important prayer. We are obligated to say it twice a day, in the morning and at night. Oh, Lanny, thank you so much. I am extremely traditional when it comes to the liturgy and rituals, as you know, and I'm extremely pluralistic and egalitarian when it comes to everything else. So I'm a little offbeat and don't fit anywhere except with all of you. And thank you for being with me tonight. That's one reason I'm so very grateful for you. We are obligated to say this twice a day. And before I start saying what I need to wipe out of my mind is I keep thinking of Rabbi Akiva, who recited the Shema while his skin was being scraped off with a big iron comb as punishment by the Romans because he was teaching the Torah. Now, Jewish law requires more concentration on the first verse of the Shema. And so what you see here is the first and main paragraph of the Shema. If you don't mind, I'd like us to say it together. And then we're going to listen to the first part sung in Hebrew. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and you shall speak of them when you are sitting at home, and when you go on a journey, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be jewels between your eyes. You shall inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Mi Chamoka is based on the Song of the Sea poem from Exodus 15, and it answers the question, who is like you, Lord? The answer to which, of course, is that there is none like him.
קיים לפני משה אלינו ואמרו
The Chatzi Kaddish or half Kaddish is sometimes called the Reader's Kaddish, and typically it's used as a separator between parts of the service. It's a hymn or praise, or it's a hymn of praise about the greatness of God. And as we move to the interactive part of our evening, I thought this would be a perfect place to put it in.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא תברך חירותי ויניח מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחייכו בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך ועולם עולם מעלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו אלא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן ואמרו אמן.
Let's go ahead and do the prayer for healing next. Of course, we're going to use Debbie Friedman's version, remembering that we have a lag. If there's anyone who you consider to be in need of physical or spiritual healing, compassion, restoration, or strength, please type their names in, and I will strain my crummy little eyeballs and make sure that I can read it. Ariella, would you please email me that file later? Absolutely. If you tell me what file you're referring to, Lanny, I will send you anything. This is Debbie Friedman. I'm going to go ahead and start off, and I hope I'm not telling tales out of school, but we all know Katsira, and her dad is sick. She's going to take off a little while and go take care of him. So I would like to have us say a prayer for her, for him. Hadar Gavin, the kidnapped IDF soldier. Mona, who just lost her husband. So sorry. Oh my goodness, I have goosebumps. Snowflake, our cat. The last Kaddish, I shall. Thank you, Lanny. I will do that. Victor Cohen, Tom Pedden, Joy Romano, Olive Bait Torah. Adele, is that you? Won't let you log in, so I'm yes, that is you. And I missed here Buddy and Annette from Avi. And by the way, I'm sorry that I forgot to move the screen on this. Is there anybody else? Okay, what I'd like to do now is move on to another very appropriate psalm, as you'll see, Psalm 79. If you don't mind, we can read it together, and I'm going to stick myself down here so you know I'm still here, although I'm sure you hear my raspy little voice. O God, the heathen have come into thy inheritance. They have defiled the holy temple. They have laid Jerusalem in ruins. They have given the bodies of thy servants to the birds of the air for food, the flesh of thy saints to the beasts of the earth. They have poured out their blood like water round about Jerusalem, and there was none to bury them. We have become a taunt to our neighbors, mocked and derided by those round about us. How long, O Lord, wilt thou be angry forever? Wilt thy jealous wrath burn like fire? Pour out thy anger on the nations that do not know thee, and on the kingdoms that do not call on thy name. For they have devoured Jacob and laid waste his habitation. Do not remember against us the iniquities of our forefathers. Let thy compassion come speedily to meet us, for we are brought very low. Help us, O God of our salvation, for the glory of thy name. Deliver us and forgive our sins for thy name's sake. Why should the nations say, where is their God? Let the avenging of the outpoured blood of thy servants be known among the nations before our eyes. Let the groans of the prisoners come before thee. According to thy great power, preserve those doomed to die. Return sevenfold into the bosom of our neighbors the taunts with which they have taunted thee, O Lord. Then we, thy people, the flock of thy pasture, will give thanks to thee forever. From generation to generation, we will recount thy praise. So I guess you gather the theme that we're handling here tonight. And we're going to move on from that. By the way, I guess you can surmise, since we're in the 3 weeks of mourning, why I'm wearing a black veil tonight. Probably the first and last time that I will go ahead and do that. But after working on this, I was getting really sad. So as you look back over the past week, I'd like you to think about any blessings, anything you're grateful for, anything that's made you happy. And the music that I'm going to play is happy music. Please type in anything, blessings, grateful, or happy, the words of which are almost interchangeable. getting this new battery charger for my computer that works, so I am back online as much as I was. Great call. Shabbat is here. Indeed it is, and that certainly is a reason. And for me, I think the reason is that you're all here with me. Can't tell you how special that is, and I'll keep saying that. You're going to get tired of hearing me do it. Blessed with good friends and new curtains. Love it. And getting into university. Oh my goodness! Congratulations! And Lanny, I can hear you singing. Can you hear me talking over this music, or did I leave it too loud? And I second that. Mazel tov, Esther. We are grateful our family is healthy. Nanach Lani. Toda Rabah Tal from Esther. One thing that I love about this is that all of you talk among yourselves. And I think that that's the most wonderful thing. Actually, I'm going to stick that under this and say that's one thing I'm very grateful for. Thanks, Lanny. I appreciate it. I know I had a problem last week. So, joining with you, Lanny. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the converse, and I'm going to ask you, well, Esther, on behalf of everybody, although they've already said it, Esther says, thanks all, and you are most welcome. We're going to switch gears here and go to the converse. Has anything made you sad or worried you or bothered you this week? This group, as you can probably tell, is very empathic, and I'm always very comfortable sharing. So type in anything you'd like to share. I'm going to say again that I'm always worried about my doggie, Casey, whose vision is going very quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and start some music here and start. You hope your computer woes will be over soon too. Anything that's worrying you, anything that made you sad this week. What is going on in Israel? Isn't that a horrendous situation? Lanny, I think it's almost getting to the point where it's scary. I've been watching the news coverage in the other countries, particularly France and Germany, who I know are becoming very, very worried. I second that. The situation in the Middle East is awful. Thank God they agreed to a ceasefire. When that ceasefire lasted, what, 25 minutes? Has something happened in the past 3 or 4 hours? Please let me know so I can say something happy. Right, Lanny, I thought so, unless something news happened. Yeah, it only lasted a few minutes if memory serves, unless there's been another one since late this morning. Yeah, Esther, didn't last, just a few minutes, and it's, as Lanny says, perfect word, Lanny, scrapped. That was it. The Elenu is the final prayer that we say at all 3 of our daily services. So this concludes except for a couple things that we'll be doing that I don't know if we can truly consider part of the service. But let's conclude tonight with the Aleinu. Now, I know you've seen this one before, but not to worry. I'm just going to talk about it briefly. This is to give you an idea of where we are. This is the 3 weeks, starting and ending with the fast on the 17th of Tammuz, the 1st of Av. We're at August 1st, which is about halfway in between the 1st of Av and the 9th of Av. The 9th is August 5th, which is Tuesday, so we're about halfway in between. And remembering that since last time we focused a lot on the 17th of Tammuz, tonight we're going to be looking mostly at Tisha B'Av, which is forthcoming on the 5th of August, which is Tuesday. And on Tisha B'Av itself, on the 9th of Av, we're mourning 5 official tragedies, which we'll talk about briefly in just a moment. But I've already talked about it once before, so I'm sure that all of you remember what they are. And I know you've seen this one before too, but let's review. Saying we start and end with the fast. The 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av itself, is a full fast with no eating or drinking from sunset until nightfall. And actually that's 25 hours, which apparently has to do with the fact that the burning started on the 9th, but actually the first temple burned through the next night. Now for customs, the one here that says the 3 weeks with no weddings, etc., that's for all of the 3 weeks. We're now adding to that the 9 days. No meat or wine except on Shabbat, laundering clothing, swimming, bathing for pleasure, remodeling your house, planting trees for shade or fragrance, buying, sewing, weaving, or knitting any new clothes, and it's considered best to avoid travel and business ventures. Now, when we get to Tisha B'Av itself, you can see what's coming up, and you can make your own decisions with respect to whether or not you want to engage in those restrictions. So from the Talmud, on the 9th of Av, it was decreed upon our ancestors that they wouldn't enter the land of Israel, that the first and second temples were destroyed, the city of Beitar was captured, and the city of Jerusalem was plowed over. Those are the ones that are in the Talmud, and it's not infrequent that these last 3 that I have on here about the expulsion of the Jews from England and Spain, as well as the deportation of the Warsaw Ghetto Jews to Treblinka, are added onto that list. And usually, and I don't quite know why, because one would think that it might also be the fact of the 12 spies and the fact that they didn't want to go into the land of Israel, that they were forced to wander in the desert for 40 years, might be as significant as the burning of the first temple, the destruction of the first temple. But during Tisha B'Av, on Tisha B'Av itself, and most of the surrounding liturgy, etc., as you've seen even from the Psalms that we just read, is the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple itself. That is usually the main focus of the period between the 1st and the 9th of Av, which is what we're in now. This is supposed to be a replica, if you will, of the first temple, and as we know, that was built by King Solomon, based on very detailed instructions that were given to King David, who was King Solomon's dad, and by the prophet Nathan. Now, Solomon started construction in the 4th year of his reign. It took 7 years to build. This is the first time that the Ark of the Covenant found a home, put into the Holy of Holies, and there was a whole week of celebration. This temple stood for 410 years, and during that time, it was very peaceful, very prosperous. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with that. And then they sinned. The Talmud says that the sins that led to the destruction of the temple were idolatry, murder, and sexual immorality. So after the long siege of Jerusalem in 586 BCE, the Babylonians, under the direction of Nebuchadnezzar, entered Jerusalem on the 7th of Av. They desecrated the temple, and on the 9th of Av, they burned it, set it on fire, and that continued to burn through part of the 10th. Now, these events were predicted by Jeremiah in chapter 25, and I find this amazing. If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and read this with you. Assuredly, thus said the Lord of hosts, because you would not listen to my words, I am going to send for all the peoples of the north, declares the Lord, and for my servant, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, and bring them against this land and its inhabitants, and against all those nations round about. I will exterminate them and make them a desolation, an object of hissing, ruins for all time, and I will banish from them the sound of mirth and gladness, the voice of bridegroom and bride, and the sound of the mill and the light of the lamp. This whole land shall be a desolate ruin. Going to talk a little bit about Lamentations, and the reason I'm not going to go into a lot of details, I'm sure all of you will be thrilled to know because I am, right? On Tuesday, on Tisha B'Av itself, Hannah, our wonderful Hannah, is going to actually chant Eicha. We don't know which chapter she's going to do, so I don't want to go into too much detail about everything. And let me stop a moment here. I believe the assassination that led to World War I was also on Tisha B'Av. FYI, we flew storm damage assessment and found nothing serious. Wow, thank you for that. And yes, you are correct. And there are several others than the ones that I did put up. Thank you for adding that, because you know what? I did not include that last time. Guest 180, are you a pilot? Good question, Lanny. I'll wait for the answer. So Lamentations is actually 5 separate poems, and these, what you see up here, are the main themes. The first one is shame, mourning, and suffering. Actually, this one is probably my favorite, if one can actually say that a story of destruction is your favorite. It is the personification of Jerusalem as a woman who's portrayed variously as a lonely widow, a degraded princess, a whore, a rape victim, a betrayed lover, and an abandoned wife. Chapter 2 is about God's anger with Israel. There's a shift from the victim, who's Jerusalem, to the perpetrator of the destruction, God, who shows contempt for his people and the temple. Chapter 3 is about the exile, and this is told in the first person of a male, what he's seen and felt as he witnessed the destruction and experienced exile and the brutality of battle. Chapter 4 is about degradation. It focuses on the experience of the community as told by a third-person observer. It step by step describes the siege and the suffering, talks about everything beautiful is sullied, things of priceless value, and if I understand correctly, that's referring to human beings, are treated as worthless. It's probably best described as a poetic description of famine. Let me stop here for a minute and read. Yes, but not for CAP, not enough hours. Okay. Wonderful comment. Been a pilot since '76. Well, Lanny, I didn't know that, and didn't know the other either. I love getting to know you. Please continue talking among yourselves. I appreciate it so much. The last one is prayer. Actually pleading with God to reinstate his former relationship with Israel. And verse 21 depicts this very well. Take us back, Lord, to yourself. Oh, let us come back. Make us again as we were before. And now I want to warn you what's coming up next. I'm going to play a video with no sound, and I'm going to read to you. As you know, there are some elegies, some dirges called kino or singular kina, read at services around the 3 weeks. So I have selected one that gives me the chills, and one reason that I'm wearing the black veil on my head is a kina by Kalir. It may be a little distressing to you. The first time I read it, it was for me. So I'm going to go ahead and start the video, which you're going to be watching silent. It is silent. I'm going to be talking over it. And each of these lines starts with the word when, and I'm going to go ahead and say what you, the congregation, is supposed to say in response, and I'm only going to do that once. Your response is, woe is me, at the end of each sentence that I'm going to read. So, as I say, I will read the first one for you. When I think how women could devour their own offspring, the children of their tender care, woe is me. When I think how compassionate women could boil their own children that were so carefully nurtured. When I think how the tresses of their heads could be cut off and tied as adornment upon the enemy's fleet horses. When I think how the tongue of the suckling could cleave to his palate through parching thirst. When I think how one woman could moan to another, come let us boil our shrieking children. When I think how one woman could make assignment with another and say, give me your son for food, but he was already hidden away, having been cut into pieces. When I think how the flesh of fathers were prepared as food for their children in caves and ditches. When I think how the daughters were clasped, swollen from starvation in their mother's lap. When I think how the spirit of dead infants hover over their swollen corpses that lie about the streets of the city. When I think how the women were burdened with miscarrying wombs and dried up breasts, and each mother weeps over her children that are sinking into death. When I think how, in exhaustion, 1,000 were diminished to 100, 100 to 10, and 10 to 1. When I think how all those souls were burnt like the loppings of thorn bushes. When I think how the necks of 80,000 anointed young priests were broken, falsely accused of shedding Zechariah's innocent blood. When I think how the wounded became swollen from the odor of the produce of the grass. When I think how 9 cabs of children's brains were piled up on one stone. When I think how 300 sucklings were impaled, stretched out on a single branch. When I think how tender and delicate women were seen walking in fetters at the hand of the chief executioner. When I think how the daughters of noble princes were dishonored among the rubbish heaps in the fields. Woe is me. That is probably more of a description than you ever wanted to hear or see about the destruction of the first temple. And I'm going to leave you with that. And if that doesn't get you to fast on Tisha B'Av, nothing will. I think this was absolutely the most striking thing. It killed me to read this. So that's going to conclude this evening. I'd like to tell you what's coming up. On Tuesday, as I said, August 6th, Hannah's going to chant a chapter from Eicha, which is Lamentations, for us. The next Friday, Katsira is scheduled to do Shabbat, and either I will cover for her or we'll be doing something. On Sunday, the 10th, we're going to move into a more happy time, Tu B'Av. I will be doing that. I'm going to have a fancy little, that's the equivalent of our Valentine's Day. So we'll be looking at love stories in the Bible, looking at the events that marked Tu B'Av, have a nice background, have lots of roses. So that will be a happy time compared to tonight. On Friday the 15th, I'm back for Kabbalat Shabbat. And boy, I'm tired reading what I'm doing. Wednesday the 20th, I'm doing a presentation on animal rights. By the way, that's going to be fun. I have thousands of stuffed animals that I'm going to put on shelves behind me. And if you have any pet pictures, please be sure to send them to me because I'd like to run them during the talk. And on Tuesday the 26th, Rosh Chodesh, Katsira should be back by then. So I'm going to... you see the little thing there that says donate at the top of your page. There's a yellow button. We usually suggest $5, maybe $10, but if you can only do $1, that would be absolutely fabulous. Everything that we do and the reason we're able to stay up on the air is because of volunteers and because of your donations. So we would really appreciate it. This is my email. If you'll send me some pet pictures, anything you didn't like about tonight or anything about the service that you might like to see done differently, any suggestions you have would be greatly appreciated. I also will be doing a regular Kabbalat Shabbat service on the 15th, and I'm always open to having suggestions for what we do for a discussion. So again, I'd like to thank you for coming to my home and being with me on Shabbat. I do love having you here so much. And I'm really very grateful to you for your willingness to be with me and to share my Shabbat rituals. It makes it so much more special for me. And y'all are always wonderful. I thank you so much. And I hope that, thank you very much. Oh, Lana, you're an angel. Everyone, you've been wonderful. I'm going to sign off for the evening. Shabbat Shalom. Please come back. I look forward to seeing you again. You've been a terrific group tonight. I just can't tell you. I'm almost ready to cry. Thank you so much, and good night.